That one. Big one.
Here we are ordering a khachapuri.
Oh.
It's a traditional Georgian dish.
What's the most popular one?
Your favorite?
That's beloved across the country.
Yeah, that's the one.
Two.
Yeah.
And once you try it, you'll understand why.
Is it khachapuri?
Essentially, it's a bread shaped like a boat filled with cheese. What's not to like?
Khachapuri.
The bread is soft, warm, and perfectly golden, while the cheese filling is rich, gooey, and savory. Different regions of Georgia have their own versions, but they all share the same foundation: bread and cheese, a simple but winning combination. I'm here with my American travel buddy, Cynthia, and the version we tried is called Ajaruli Khachapuri, and it's a bit of a showstopper.
So we made it to Tbilisi, Georgia, and it's lunchtime, and we have been recommended to get an Ajaruli Khachapuri, which is kind of a cheese pie. It looks like a boat of bread, made out of bread, and then there's some cheese in there and an egg on top. So basically, what's not to like? And it's called Ajaruli Khachapuri.
Yeah, it's shaped like a boat, and when it comes out of the oven, they crack a raw egg on top and toss in a scoop of butter. You stir it all together with the cheese inside, and the result is an incredibly rich, creamy filling. The dough is thick around the edges, making it perfect for dipping into the cheesy, eggy goodness. And yes, it tastes as appealing as it sounds. Just don't think of the calories. It's worth every bite. Khachapuri is a must-try if you're in Georgia, or anywhere you can find it, really. It's kind of a comfort food that makes you feel good and probably sends you into a food coma afterwards. My name is Palabo, and this is the Radio Vagabond. Welcome to Georgia.
If travel is your passion, and you want escapism while still upholding your work and family responsibilities, you can travel vicariously from the comfort of your own home. This is the Radio Vagabond.
Before Georgia, we just came from Azerbaijan, the land of fire. So I was wondering if Georgia also has a nickname. And it turns out they do. They call it the Cradle of Wine. And that's because they've been making wine the same way for 8,000 years. And it's pretty unique. Later, we'll go visiting one of these wineries and see how they do it and share a few glasses with the winemaker. This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com.
They say it's that friend we all have.
Oh, you mean the friend that messages you out of the blue?
Yes.
With a crazy flight deal?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The idea is that it's trying to replicate their feeling of having almost like a personal travel agent.
Right.
You feed it your dates, your destination, and then it just kind of gets to work and scours the internet.
So, Hotels25.com wants to be our new travel BFF.
Exactly. Hotels25.com. Make sure you're getting the best deal.
Through every border, across every land, with his knife in his pocket and the world in his hand. His name is Bond, the Radio Vagabond, as I said. Gotta keep moving.
You might remember that we left Azerbaijan in a hurry after Cynthia was in a traffic accident, basically escaping the corrupt police, even though she did nothing wrong, and she needed a checkup at a better hospital than the one we were at in Baku. Well, she did, and a lot happened on that front. In fact, that was what most of our first week in Georgia was spent on. But I won't go into that in this episode. You'll get a special one only about the whole hospital thing next week. In fact, you'll get 2 Georgia episodes next week. One on Tuesday about our experiences outside of the capital when we go on a road trip. And one about what can happen when you get surgery in a foreign country. This week will be all about our experiences right here in Tbilisi. Now, we're in Georgia for the first time here on the Radio Vagabond. And you know what that means.
And now, facts about where we are.
All right, first things first. We are not in Georgia, USA. No Atlanta here. We're in Georgia, the country, sitting between Eastern Europe and Western Asia in the South Caucasus region. Russia's up north, Turkey and Armenia are down south, Azerbaijan is hanging out to the southeast, and to the west we've got the Black Sea.
How big and how many people?
Georgia is slightly smaller than Ireland and slightly bigger than West Virginia. It covers 69,700 square kilometers, that's about 27,000 square miles, with a population of around 3.7 million people. So yeah, fewer than many cities, but plenty of room to explore.
Official languages.
The language here is Georgian, and it's not just the spoken part that's unique. They got their own alphabet. Forget about Latin letters that we know. They've been using a script with 33 letters since the 4th or 5th century, so you might struggle a bit reading street signs. But in bigger cities like Tbilisi, English works fine, especially with the younger crowd. And if you know Russian, you're in luck. A lot of older Georgians can speak that too, as a former Soviet republic. Georgia is officially a democratic republic. Elections, yeah, they have them. Free and fair? Well, that's up for debate, just like we saw in Azerbaijan. They're working on it, but it's not exactly a perfect system yet. Georgia is doing all right economically. It's considered an upper middle-class income country, but don't expect the same living standards that you'll find in Western Europe. The economy leans heavily on agriculture, tourism and services, and with a GDP per capita of about $5,000, it's in the same ballpark as Armenia and Tunisia.
Religion.
Many people here follow the Georgian Orthodox Christianity, about 83% of the population. So churches and monasteries are a big part of the culture and landscape.
The flag.
The Georgian flag is pretty cool. It's called the five-cross flag. A big red cross in the middle, 4 smaller crosses in each corner, all on a white background. The crosses represent Georgia's long Christian history, and it's a flag you'll see proudly flying everywhere.
What's the typical local food?
Let's talk a bit more about food. Georgians know their way around a kitchen, and you've got to try some of their classic dishes. There's kinkali, those tasty dumplings stuffed with meat or vegetables, and pikali, a kind of veggie pate, and of course the superstar we've already had, khachapuri, that delicious cheese-filled bread. It's all comfort food heaven.
What's a typical local beer?
Georgians like their beer too. If you're up for trying some, go for Nataktari or Argo. But honestly, wine is the real showstopper here. And we'll be diving into a wine tasting later, so stay tuned for that.
Famous people from here.
You know who's from Georgia? Well, you might not believe this, but it's Joseph Stalin. Yeah, the Soviet dictator himself. He ran the Soviet Union for decades, cracking down on political opponents, and was responsible for the death of millions. And he was an innocent little baby right here in Georgia.
Famous proverb from here.
Georgians have some great sayings. One is, "He who has a mother will not perish," which shows how important family is here. And another, "The guest is from God." That highlights their legendary hospitality.
And that was Facts About Where We Are.
Thank you, Mr.
The name's Bond.
Radio Vagabond.
Georgia's relationship with its neighbors is, well, let's just say, complicated. Let's start with Azerbaijan. As we joked about in the Azerbaijan episode, they're like stuck in a long-term Catholic marriage. They're like that neighbor you don't always get along with, but you tolerate because, well, you're stuck living next door. They share the connection to Europe, pipelines and economic ties. No matter what, they have to stick together, even though they've had their fair share of squabbles. Moving on to Russia, Georgia and Russia are definitely not BFFs. They've had some serious tension over the years, especially with conflicts like the 2008 war, when Russia backed separatist regions. It's a love-hate relationship, mostly hate, with a lot of history. Also, they were a part of the Soviet Union, and I get a sense that Putin really wants that back. Then there's Armenia. Those two get along pretty well. Both are Christian countries in a largely Muslim region, so they find common ground on that. But like any friendship, they've got their quirks, especially when it comes to foreign alliances. Plus they're in that Catholic marriage with Azerbaijan, who's mortal enemies with Armenia. And finally Turkey, Georgia's window to the west. They share strong trade relations, and they have a good thing going. But it's always a careful dance. After all, Turkey also has its own complex ties with other neighbors like Armenia. In short, Georgia's relationship is a bit of a balancing act. But like in any family, they find a way to keep the peace, most of the time. We're in the capital, Tbilisi. It's one of those cities that sneak up on you. It's got this fascinating mix of old and new, where ancient cobblestone streets and medieval buildings sit right next to ultra-modern glass structures. You can feel the history here. The city's been through everything from Persian invasions to Soviet rule, but it's still standing strong. The streets are full of colorful houses with wooden balconies, cozy cafes, and hidden courtyards. And then there's the cool vibe. It's got this artsy, laid-back energy with street art, funky bars, and a bustling nightlife scene. The best part, the views. Tbilisi is built on a hill, so wherever you go, there's always a spot where you can stop and soak in the sights, with the old fortress on one side and the modern cityscape on the other. It's a perfect balance to wander aimlessly and just get lost in its charm.
Okay. Military highway, here we come.
We rented a car and went on a small road trip.
This would be so much nicer if the weather breaks.
Yeah.
I am happy to be out of the city and going and doing like what seems like normal touring thing.
Yeah. So Cynthia, we left Tbilisi after a few days, a week. Oh my God, a week in Tbilisi, and now we're driving up towards Russia. We're not going to cross the border, but we're driving on this thing called the military highway. Am I right?
This is the military highway.
And why is it called that?
I don't know, but we need to Google that.
You don't know.
You thought I was going to know the answer to that, didn't you?
I thought you knew everything because you said we need to come up here.
We do.
Because there's, is it a monastery or?
There's a monastery.
That's on the front page of
every travel magazine.
Yeah.
And it sits in front of, let's see if I can say this right. K something. No, I'm just going to call it the Big K Mountain. We'll figure it out when we get up there. But there's this massive mountain, and it always has snow and glaciers on it because we are up in the high Caucasus range, literally on the border with Russia. We'll be 11 kilometers from Russia when we get to this point.
Yeah.
And then there's like a hill in front of this massive glaciated mountain, on top of which they have built a very famous monastery. And I believe it's actually 3 buildings. It's a pretty large structure. And this is the symbol of Georgia, other than, of course, the capital at Tbilisi.
Yeah. And talking about Tbilisi, we did manage to go see a few things. Not only
the inside of a big OR?
Yeah. So especially yesterday was memorable because we went in the cable car up to the fortress. It's very unique and lit at night and so beautiful, and there's a cable car going up there.
And a huge statue.
Huge statue of a
lady
with
a sword.
Yeah. Fallen Madonna with the big boobies.
Yes.
As
There's
we
the
would call
quote.
it in Europe. People who've seen Allo Allo would know what I'm talking about. Americans will have no clue.
So we took the cable car in Tbilisi up from Wright Park to the top of Sololaki Hill. Not just for the views, which are amazing by the way, but to meet the one and only Mother of Georgia. After gliding up in the cable car, seeing the city spread out beneath us, we're face to face with this 20-meter tall aluminium woman standing on a hill, looking like she means business. The Mother of Georgia definitely looks like she could handle herself in a bar fight. And then offer you a drink afterwards. She's standing there with these muscular arms and biceps saying, "I pump iron, and yeah, it's heavy." And her chests, well, let's just say that she's not shy about it. She's like saying, "I'm strong, but I can still show you some Georgian hospitality." And then her face has a little smirk. It's almost like she's daring you to try something. But deep down, you know she's just being cheeky. Between the sword in one hand and the giant wine bowl in the other, it's a pretty clear message. If you're a friend, you're in for a good time. If not, well, you might want to rethink your life choices. She's an awesome blend of strength, pride, and that welcoming, slightly intimidating vibe that only Georgia can pull off. Plus the views from up here. Absolute stunner. You get the whole city, the river, and even the mountains in the distance. It's definitely worth the ride.
Yeah, it was beautiful going up there. And then there's a bridge as well. Very modern walking bridge across the river.
Freedom Bridge.
No, it's the Peace Bridge.
Is that the Peace Bridge?
That's the
shoot,
Peace
I got it
Bridge,
wrong.
not to be confused with the Freedom Square.
Freedom Square.
Yeah.
The Peace Bridge is one of the city's most modern and eye-catching landmarks. Spanning across the Kura River, it connects the old and the newer parts of Tbilisi. And the bridge looks like something out of a futuristic sci-fi movie. It's all glass and steel with a unique wave-like structure. The bridge lit up with thousands of LED lights that make it glow at night, like a giant spaceship just touched down here in the middle of Tbilisi. Walking across it, you'll get some killer views of the river and the city on both sides. But it's really the bridge itself that steals the show. It opened in 2010 and has another cool feature. The lights on the bridge spell out messages in Morse code, symbolizing peace and unity. So it's got a deeper meaning while also being a favorite spot for selfies and evening strolls. And then there's the main square of the city. It's one of Tbilisi's most important and historically rich spots. It's right in the heart of the city and has seen everything from protests to celebrations over the years. Back in the day, it was known as the Yerevan Square. But like many things in this region, the name has changed with the political winds. During the Soviet times, it was Lenin Square, complete with a giant statue of Lenin, of course. Now it's called Freedom Square, or Liberty Square, and it's the symbol of Georgia's journey towards independence and democracy. In the center of the square, on top of a 35-meter tall pillar, stands a massive golden statue of St. George, Georgia's patron saint, slaying a dragon. The square is in the old town of Tbilisi, a hub of activity with busy streets surrounding it and a constant flow of people. It's a great place to soak in the vibe of the city, with a mix of the old Soviet-era buildings and the new modern shops and cafes. When is a good time of the year to visit Georgia when it comes to the weather? Let's have a look.
Radio Vagabond weather.
When it comes to visiting Georgia, timing is everything. And you don't want to get that wrong, so here's the lowdown. If you're a fan of mild temperatures and gorgeous scenery, the best time to visit is either late spring or early autumn. In May and June, you'll find pleasant weather with everything blooming and no unbearing heat. It's like Georgia's putting on its best suit for you. Plus, it's a perfect time for outdoor activities like hiking in the Caucasus Mountains without sweating through every piece of clothing on you. September and October, when we're here, are also prime month. And this is when Georgia's famous wine regions really come to life. Imagine sipping on local wine under the warm autumn sun with beautiful colors around you. Doesn't get better than that. Oh, and the weather is still warm enough for you to comfortably explore Tbilisi and beyond. The summer, July and August, can get pretty toasty, especially in Tbilisi, where it sometimes feels like you're baking in an oven. And winters, December to February, are cold, especially if you head into the mountains. But if skiing is your thing, Georgia ski resorts can be a winter wonderland. Just be prepared to bundle up. So unless you like to be either a human snowball or a roast in Georgian summer, aim for spring or fall. That's the best way to enjoy all Georgia has to offer, whether you're into wine, hiking, or just enjoying that sweet, sweet weather.
Radio Vagabond.
We'll be right back.
As you know, I'm a digital nomad, and what I do when I'm not doing the Radio Vagabond is helping companies and individuals start their podcast and keep them podcasting.
Ever find yourself hitting rewind just to figure out how a podcast pulled you in?
Right. Like, what's the magic behind a story that truly resonates?
And that's what has us so intrigued by Palabo.
He's a bit of a perfectionist, isn't he?
He is, but it's not just about making things sound like clean, you know? It's more about crafting the listening experience.
Like that Travel Podcaster of the Year award he won in 2024 for the Radio Vagabond. That's got to be a testament to his skills.
Oh, absolutely. He doesn't just talk about places, he makes you feel like you're there. You can practically smell the spices in the marketplace or hear the waves crashing on the shore.
It's like he can handle any format, any genre.
Exactly. He understands that it's all part of the package.
So basically, you come to him with an idea, and he can help you take it all the way to a fully launched podcast.
And what's really cool is that he's open to working with everyone. He doesn't just work with the big names. He's happy to collaborate with smaller companies and independent podcasters too.
Which is awesome.
He really wants to elevate the entire podcasting world.
I kind of want to start a podcast now.
You should. Sounds like Pally Go might be the guy to talk to.
He might just be the missing piece of the puzzle.
Let's make some audio magic together. Drop me a line and let's get started. You can see more on my company's website, radioguru.co.uk.
And now, back to this week's episode.
A few days earlier, we were enjoying the mild autumn weather, taking an afternoon stroll in the old city.
Hello.
And sitting on the sidewalk was a young man selling bracelets.
I'm fascinated with your project. You're going on a tour.
Yes.
So am I.
Really?
Yeah.
He had a sign that he was making money for a plane ticket to Thailand and a list of Asian countries he wanted to go to.
Have you ever been to Southern Asia?
Yeah, I've been to Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. What does it say?
Indonesia, Philippines,
Yeah.
Korea, Japan.
Yeah. Both Koreas, both North and South Korea.
And that made me sit down beside him.
So we're walking randomly in Tbilisi, in the old town, and then I see somebody sitting on the street selling bracelets and stuff like that. And then the sign caught my attention. It said, "I just need a flight ticket to Thailand, not more." And another sign, you are saying that you're on a big tour. Burak, you're from Turkey and you've started a quest around the world.
Yes, I am from Turkey and I just started my big world tour.
Yeah.
And it's first step Asia. I will go to Southern Asia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Iran, and go to.
And then you've listed
Thailand.
some countries: Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, Korea, Japan. I think that's a good tour.
Yes, because you know Asia is cheaper than other part of the world, and very different and rich culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's good choice for first step.
Exactly. And then when you get to Japan, I have a feeling you're not going to go back to Turkey.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
That can be a long way down the line. But what made you make that decision? You're a young guy, or you're just out of school? What's the story?
Actually, I am a study at university, Department of Philosophy, and actually this is my last year. But I leave the school and start my big tour, because I feel I can't wait one more year. No. And I started this tour. We'll see.
See, I never did that when I was your age. A lot of kids in Denmark, they take a gap year and then go travel. A lot of people around the world, they do that. I never did that. So I did that when I turned 50 and my kids moved out of the house.
Yes, I don't know.
But I think
actually, so many people want to travel, but they are scared.
Yeah.
They are scared other people. They are scared about other country.
Yeah.
You know, for example, I am from Turkey. I want to go into Armenia.
Yeah.
People says like this. No, don't go Armenia. It's dangerous. No,
they don't like Turkish people.
Yes, they don't like Turkish people. But no, for example, I spent time Georgia 2 months and I meet a lot of Armenian people. They buy bracelets and they help me. We talk. There is no problem. Problems are generally politic.
Yeah.
Not about people.
Exactly, and it's I hear that also, especially when I started traveling. Oh, it's so dangerous, and you see my friend, she was just hit by a car in Baku and broke her arm, but that could happen anywhere. It wasn't because we were in Azerbaijan, or it could happen wherever.
Yes, I think it's my politica. I don't know. Yeah, every country has a dangerous part, but it's all of the world.
Yeah, the way I see it is that 99% of all the people in the world, they want to be nice. And obviously there are bad parts everywhere.
Yes.
I bet there's even in Istanbul a district, a part of the city I shouldn't go to in the middle of the night.
Yes.
There for sure is that in Copenhagen, and it's all over. So you have to use your common sense. Don't walk down a dark alley in the middle of the night. Don't sit out with your phone out. And
we should meet each other. We should talk each other. We should spend time each other.
And I see that you have Iran on the list. I was in Iran, and that's one of the most where I meet the most friendly people. That and Saudi Arabia are the two countries that comes to mind.
Exactly, Middle Eastern countries are really friendly.
And they invite you home.
This is cultural situation.
So the way you travel, I take it since you're sitting here on the sidewalk in Tbilisi, you don't have a ton of money. You have to work while you do it, and but I guess that you it doesn't have to cost a lot to travel.
I don't need a lot of money.
Just a flight ticket.
I just need a flight ticket to Thailand. People these days, people love money, a lot of money. They want a lot of money, good cars, good house, but I think this is not important. Money is not important. You have one chance for living, just one. Okay, I ask myself, what do you do in this life? You can hard work and make a lot of money. You get a good car, good house, but this is not important. I want to travel in my life. I want to travel. End of my life, I will think like this. Okay, I live this life, and what did I do? Travel a planet. Travel the earth. It's enough for me.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say as well, because when I started traveling, I had I still have my radio production company, and I was getting successful, so I could have made a lot of money. And a friend of mine said, "Don't go travel now. Travel when you retire, and then you can buy a bigger house, you can buy a better car." And I thought, well, I'm not going to be rich in that way, but I'm going to be rich in so many other ways. I'm going to have so many memories. And for me, that's the important thing. That's the thing I can take with me down the hole. I can't bring a beautiful Tesla. I can take all my memories.
If you bought a good car, good house, maybe you have not these memories.
No. And now I have another memory of sitting here on the sidewalk
with a guy from Turkey who is about to embark on an amazing journey. I see that you have your Instagram, so I'm going to follow you, and I will also share your Instagram on the radiovagabond.com and in the show notes, so people can follow you and see if you finally make it to Thailand. I'm going to Thailand in November, so maybe I'll see you there.
Maybe, I hope. I will be there.
Thank you so much.
You can follow Burak on Instagram and YouTube. Find the link in the blog post for this episode.
You can see pictures, videos, and links and read much more on the radiovagabond.com.
That's it for now. Next Tuesday, we will continue the road trip to look for an iconic church and get all the way to Russia. And then we go for wine tasting in a small traditional winery. Plus, as mentioned, I have an extra special episode, not so much about the country, but more about Cynthia's operation at a hospital here. Being there seemed like better than perfect, but a few months later, she found out that it was anything but that. And then I also have a Flashback Friday, so much coming up in the next couple of weeks. By the way, before I let you go, a humble brag. This podcast just got shortlisted for another award. This time it's the Traverse Content Creator Award, and I'm a finalist in the category called Best Responsible Piece. It was one of the episodes from my trip to Eastern Ukraine a year ago, and it isn't even a podcast-only award, so I'm very proud of that. The award show is in London in a few weeks. Unfortunately, I won't be there as I'll be in Japan on my way to the Extraordinary Travel Festival in Thailand. If you're enjoying listening to this podcast, please give it 5 stars in your podcast app. And if you have a few minutes, please also write a nice review. It makes me feel good. That's it. My name is Palle Bo, and I gotta keep moving. See you next week.